Hey guys, welcome back to RC Projects and the RMX 2.0. Now you've probably already seen that I was drifting at the weekend up with the Midlands Drift Society in Paisley. The car ran perfect all day in terms of reliability, had no problems with it at all. The motor was getting a little bit hot, but I'll tell you why in a minute. But I had a few setup issues. So before we get into the main part of this video, I just want to say this body is only temporary. I quickly sprayed over the rubbish shell that I had before, the GTR with the horrible stickers and decals. It was blue with some dragon decals and stuff like that, and yeah, just quickly went over it with some red and black just to make it look a bit better. This is just a practice shell whilst I learn drifting with rear wheel drive. But yeah, this shell is going. I've got another shell on order right now. It's a little out of left field. You probably haven't seen it on the drift track before ever, so yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to get that on the chassis. But yeah, this body is only temporary and it's just to help me practice really, so I don't mess up a nice shell. So yeah, I was having a few setup issues. Now if you build this kit as it says in the manual, word for word, you will have set it up for a concrete drift track instead of carpet. Now concrete has a lot more grip than carpet does, so you've essentially set this chassis up with less grip. So on a carpet track where there is less grip, your car will just be sliding all over the place. I was spinning out everywhere and having real trouble maintaining a drift and transitioning because it just kept spinning out on me. So I had done a few changes before I went to the track in the in-between bits, but didn't actually show you guys. So I mounted the motor up high to the high centre of gravity position, simply for weight transfer. If you're transferring the weight over, you're putting more weight on the leading edge or the leading two tyres, giving it a bit more grip, a bit more side bite. So yeah, move that upwards, and also change the pinion and spur gear. So I've got a 34 tooth pinion and a 72 tooth spur to give me a bit more wheel speed. And that's why the motor was getting hot. There's a bit more load on it. That's the only changes that have happened in between the build and me going to the drift event. So yeah, I was running for a good half the day with this current setup, changing the rear camber a little bit, but completely messed it up. But I just want to give a big shout out to Ash. Massive thank you to him for actually setting the chassis up properly. He's a guru when it comes to the RMX 2.0, and he set it up really, really well. It was much better after he had his hands on it. And he's given me a few pointers of how to improve the chassis even more, which I'm going to do after I've gone through all the setup things that he did. So yeah, he basically went through each corner and set it up for more grip, which is what I needed because I was just spinning out everywhere. So I'm going to go through all the little bits that he did to this chassis just to help you guys if you're struggling with your RMX 2.0. So yeah, I'm going to go through all the separate bits, and then we're going to get on to the additional bits he told me to do basically now. We'll start at the rear because that's where he made the most adjustments. In terms of shock position, he moved the top mount of the shock all the way to the outside, not to this hole here. This is a body post, body mount position area here. So not that hole there, but the outermost hole on this adjustment part here. And he moved it to the middle hole on the bottom arm. So that's the first bit of adjustment he did. He told me to buy the extreme soft springs because at the moment it's pretty stiff. So yeah, he told me to buy the 32mm extreme soft coil springs from MST, so I need to get those on order. But yeah, in terms of shocks, that's what he did. I've got the right oil in there, it's just spring rates that I need to change. He also got 4 2mm spacers placed, one under here, and obviously one under the other side as well, so that takes up 2 of the spacers. Underneath the ball joint on this camber link here that attaches to the rear hub. That gives you more pressure downwards, so obviously giving you more grip. So that's a 2mm spacer under there and another 2mm spacer underneath there. And then the other 2 spacers are placed underneath the rear arm mount, rear lower arm mount, just there. So originally there's a little metal shim that sits underneath there. So he took that out and placed some 2mm spacers underneath both holes there. So that change effectively helps with the rear squat when you're under load. So when you throttle up on the stock setup, the rear would squat down a little bit, meaning less grip. But those 2mm spacers help prevent that rear from squatting down under load, giving you more grip. He also tightened the diff in the rear. I have mine quite loose, so it was actually effectively acting as an open diff in the rear. So what he did is he tightened up that rear diff in the back, and yeah, it's effectively like a locked diff now instead of a open diff. And the last one was the rear camber angle. Now I can't remember what the figures were. I'll get my vernier out in a minute and give you the measurement from turnbuckle to turnbuckle of that length there. But I think he said 5° negative camber in the rear and 8° up the front. But yeah, I'll quickly measure that length there and you can copy it if you want. But yeah, that's effectively what he did at the rear of the car to give it more grip. So I'm going to move to the front and show you the changes he made there. Done a quick measurement, and that rear camber link measures 25.3mm. Again, shock position, change that to the third hole from the left, or second hole from the right, and the bottom is in the middle again. Just see the middle hole on the lower arm. Now a change that he told me to do when I got home was to add a 4mm spacer onto that lower arm there. Now in doing that you change the geometry at the front end, so you change the camber angle and the steering angle as well, so you need to adjust that accordingly. So what I did was, I did one side at a time, did this side first but kept that side basically stock, just so I could use that as a reference. So with the camber link at the top, I basically measured the angle there with a feeler gauge, I'll show you that in a minute, and transferred it over to that side, so undid this until the angle was the same both sides. This is a feeler gauge used to measure spark plug gap, and I basically use this to set the angle on this side. So butt the bottom up to the bottom of the wheel there and move that over until it just touches top of the wheel there. So that's your angle there. And then when I added that 4mm spacer, I changed that, undid that camber link at the top until the angle matched with this side. So it looks like I do need to move it out a little bit more, but yeah, that's effectively what I did. Just transferred the angle from that side to this side. Again, using this side as a reference, I measured from the inside of the wheel there onto the inside of the chassis there. I had this front bumper removed, so I used the edge of the chassis there and the edge of the wheel there, and then I measured from the inside of the wheel here to that part of the chassis there, and then calculated the difference between that measurement there and that measurement there, and I think it came to 20mm. So when I added the 4mm spacer there and adjusted the camber there, I measured obviously from there to there and from the inside of the wheel there to there, and just undid that steering link there until the difference between that measurement and that measurement was 20mm, and that gives you the same angle. So now that I've done this side, I can literally transfer that measurement and that measurement between the turnbuckles over to that side, and then the setup will be the same both sides. So I'm going to quickly do that now, and then I'm going to show you the other adjustments he told me to make. So I've undone the shock, got that out of the way, and also undone the top and bottom mount for the knuckle, so that's all out of the way as well. We can flip that camber arm out of the way. And then I've also undone the lower arm mount, so we can slide that out, as well as the shim. And we can slide the whole arm out. And we're also going to be adding a 4mm spacer in there. So we need to take this pin out and undo that screw, add the 4mm spacer, put it back together and put it back in the chassis. Together now, shock, knuckle, everything's all together. Handy little tip, just above in here, there's a little hole at the front there. You won't be able to see, the light's not very good. But yeah, there's a hole just there. And if you get the steering straight, you can put a 2mm Allen key down there, if you line it up properly, all the way down. And that goes all the way through to the bottom of the chassis. And that locks the steering in the centre. So that steering won't move now much. There's a little bit of play, but not much. But yeah, that's effectively a centering for the steering, so you can set up the suspension with the steering locked in the centre, which is really, really handy. Nice little touch there. But as you can see, that's got this has all been set up with reference to that side. That's got the 4mm spacer in, as does that one, but I haven't set up the camber link or the steering link. And you can see that 4mm spacer has moved that wheel massively. So you can see it's got a lot more toe out on it compared to that side, and the camber levels as well. It's got insane amount of camber compared to that side. So now I need, because I left that side stock and changed that side and used that side as a reference, this side is now how I want it, so all I have to do is match that measurement and that measurement to that side, and both sides will be the same and they'll be symmetrical, which is what you want. I've got my 4mm turnbuckle adjuster, so I'm going to undo those, get both sides the same, and that'll be that adjustment done. That's the front all setup and symmetrical. If you're copying this modification at home, then the measurements of the turnbuckles are 9.4 for the camber link, so in between there and there, 9.4mm, and the steering link just there is 14.3mm, in between there and there. So the other thing that was suggested to do is to take out these two chassis braces just there. That gives the chassis a bit more flex and a bit more give, thus giving you more grip. And along with that, he also mentioned to move the gyro to the front. So I'm not sure what that changes or how that affects the gyro. But yeah, I'm going to give it a go, see what happens. But yeah, giving the chassis more flex will in turn give it a bit more grip. There's a bit more give in the chassis. So I'm going to quickly do that now, and that should end this episode. And that concludes this episode of the RMX build. Move the gyro to the front and remove the two inner braces that ran along this central brace, tidied up the wiring a little bit. We've also widened out the front as well with those additional 4mm spaces in the lower arm. Again, thanks to Ash for helping me set up the car and suggesting those changes to make to the chassis. I'll hopefully see the differences this weekend because I'll be drifting again. But yeah, he made a massive difference to the chassis when I took it out after he'd had his hands on it. A lot more grip, I was able to link more of the track and spin out a lot less. So yeah, massive thanks to him for helping me set up the car. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I may not have explained the setup of this chassis the best way in this video, so if you've got any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. But yeah, we'll see how she performs this Saturday. I'll be going down to West Suffolk Drift in Risby and trying the car out there, and obviously there'll be a video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you want to check out the Facebook and Twitter pages, links are down below in the description box, and I shall see you next time on RC Projects. Bye.